Alright, so if it isn't stressful enough to have a family member suffering from stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which is one of those cancers that's just the worst to get. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer has a 5-year survival rate of about 3%. If you are 40 years old, you've got a 3% chance to see 45. I mean, it's very close to being a death sentence. Not entirely, but very close. And here we have a sufferer of stage 4 pancreatic cancer having their privacy violated and having the amount of stress in their lives needlessly increased as police rummage through their belongings to find some marijuana. This video is disgusting, disturbing, and downright vile in terms of just being an egregious lack of decency and a flagrant disregard of what one may consider a person's natural rights. Now, I want to just say one thing. Over the past few years, this is anecdotal, I admit, but it's something I've noticed. Most conservatives I know have been changing their mind on the marijuana issue. Most of them have started to realize that this whole thing is ridiculous, and it's such an affront on people's rights. Again, that's totally anecdotal. I haven't looked up any polls, but at the very least, the conservatives I know personally have been coming around on this issue. After all, it's what happened to me. I used to be a typical Bush-supporting conservative Republican, and I was never totally on board with the war on drugs, but I somewhat didn't care either way, but at the same time, you have to support your boys in blue, that type of thing. Until I saw something on the news, and this was probably a decade ago or so, and it was something somewhat similar to this. It was an elderly lady that had some joints laying around, and long story short, police raided her home with guns drawn, screaming their commands, and I remember watching this and I was immediately moved to the anti-prohibition side. It dawned on me that as a conservative Republican that screams all day about having a smaller government, and that government that governs least governs best, and all that stuff, I was being completely hypocritical. As one second I would say government doesn't have the right to take our money from us, they're inefficient, even if they're trying to be noble, it just doesn't work. Yet the very next moment, government could display an intolerable violation of someone's natural rights because they had some plant material on them, and at best, I paid no mind to it. So for any conservatives out there that still support anything remotely resembling prohibition, it can be a situation like what you're watching now with a cancer patient, or it can be a Cheech and Chong type becoming one with their couch. In either situation, if you support police going into their homes, disregarding the right to privacy, you know, that whole Fourth Amendment thing, then don't call yourself a small government type of person. It's completely backwards and incoherent. Truthfully, to be in favor of anything like this, of any stripe, is to support the same level of gross government overreach that your typical liberal statist person does when they claim the government has a right to take 30 to 40% of your money away from you. It's the same level of disturbing and unwarranted trust and power granted to the government. And as far as these police officers go, the only way I could respect them in any sense is if they went from this hospital room straight back to their police station, handed in their gun and badge, and said, I can't be a part of this anymore. I mean, that's what I would be saying. I'd be saying to my supervising officer, do you know what I just had to do? Do you know what I just had to be a part of? I had to rummage through a cancer patient's belongings to find a plant that helps them feel better, and I had to cause more emotional and financial stress in their lives if I found anything, which was the last thing they needed. That would be the point where I would quit. It's not the police officer's fault that these laws are on the books. I'm not blaming them for that. But if we're going to be generous for a moment, let's assume these police officers got on the force because they wanted to help those in need. Well, this cancer patient didn't seem to need their help. In fact, the only problem or source of stress in this hospital room at all, other than the cancer, was the police officers themselves. That is a good giveaway that you've got a bad law, and if you're a police officer and you have got a spine at all, you should refuse to enforce or investigate stupid laws like this. If that means you lose your job, then so be it. It's a small price to pay for not being a member of an organization that would treat a suffering family like this. But that's all. See you later.